For many years here at Christian Concern and the Christian Legal Centre, we've been expressing real concern about the way in which our young children are being sexualised at school through the relationships and health and sex education programmes. They've had various changes across the years, but what we've seen is what I would describe as the erosion of the protection of our children at primary school age. And the latest in a whole line of those cases, and for which we've got the lesson plan here, is again another Church of England school, the Swanton Morley Primary School in Durham in Norfolk. We've seen an absolutely shocking lesson plan that got introduced into the school without the parents' knowledge. Children as young as 7 were being introduced to this material. So let's take a look at the material that's being introduced into this school by Educator Solutions here into a Church of England school in Norfolk. The lesson aim, for instance, it says this: pupils realise the nature and consequences of discrimination, so it's always framed in the language of discrimination, equality, diversity. Remember, this is down for children as young as 7. We're really, and indeed there are other lessons that go down to children as young as 4, but I'm looking at the lesson plan for children between 7 and 11. In this lesson aim, we're going to look at the nature and consequences of discrimination, including the use of prejudice-based language. The learning outcomes are to show the children the correct terms to describe gender and sexuality. I know that treating someone as wrong or less than because of their gender or sexuality can constitute homophobic, biphobic or transphobic bullying. A learning outcome is that the child has considered appropriate ways to communicate about gender and sexuality. So just imagine this: with children as young as 7, unless they use the appropriate terms when it comes to gender and sexuality, they may be considered homophobic, biphobic or transphobic. The lesson plan is essentially to eliminate homophobic, transphobic, biphobic behaviour, by which they mean they will normalise homosexual activity and gender identity distress, gender identity confusion. Begin the lesson by explaining that we will be learning about the words that are used to describe different genders. What is gender? How many genders? And different sexualities. How many sexualities? Tell pupils that people are romantically attracted to a range of different types of people. The attraction varies from one person to another. Some people are attracted to people of a different gender to them. Some people are attracted to people of the same gender as them. And some people are attracted to both. Remind pupils of the working agreement. This is 7 to 11-year-olds. You're asking 7-year-olds to be reminded of a working agreement. 7-year-olds need to be given order and structure to their day. They need to be taught how to do some maths. They need to be told to eat their vegetables. No doubt parents will be reminding them about when to brush their teeth. Do we really think that they can understand working agreements and concepts such as homophobia, biphobia and transphobia? Then we've got the definition dominoes. Provide each group with a large sheet of paper, a blue, black and green pen, and ask the pupils to write down all of the words that they've heard to do with sexuality and gender using the black pen. And then instruct the pupils to circle the word that they believe to be acceptable words with the blue pen. So here are the terms. Gender, whether you describe yourself as a girl or a boy. Well, not so long ago that was just biological sex, boy or girl. Now it's a social construct. Cisgender, feeling the same gender as the sex you were born. Being born with a penis and feeling like a boy, being born with a vagina and feeling like a girl. That's cisgender, 7 to 11-year-olds. Transgender, feeling a different gender to the sex you were born. being born with a penis but feeling like a girl, being born with a vagina and feeling like a boy. This is to our children. Pangender, someone who does not feel like a boy or a girl. Sex, that gets reduced to the sexual organs you were born with: male, penis and testicles, female, vulva and vagina. Now, I think that all of this is much harder than maths to understand. Much harder to understand this than understanding nouns and verbs and adverbs, which is the kind of thing I was learning at 7 to 11. A lot of these things aren't even real. These are socially constructed terms that confuse most adults. In fact, that get quite a lot of adults into trouble just when they speak the truth about the words, or if they get confused about the words or accidentally use the words in a wrong context at work and find themselves in trouble at work. So there's a reality that lots of adults can't deal with these terms, let alone 7 to 11-year-olds. Why? Because these terms actually don't make sense. But it's worse. A lesson activity here is wedding day. And the teacher is asked to ask the pupils to remember a wedding, if they've been to a wedding, and what was it like, and where did it take place, and did they enjoy it? And then to act out a wedding day. And they can choose to be married to someone of the same sex or the opposite sex. And they even act out the ceremony in the class. So they will say that Michael is invited to the wedding, or that Michael takes John to be the husband. We're talking 7 to 11-year-olds acting out a wedding day between a man and a woman, a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, but they can choose. Can you imagine the kind of memories that you're putting into 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds if you're asking them to act out the wedding day? What if Andrea married Catherine, my best friend, when I was 8 years of age? What kind of memory would that have placed into me? How would I look back on that? How would I feel about that? How would that have confused me in terms of the truth? Look at these very graphic pictures that we have for 7 to 11-year-olds talking about sexual intercourse, beginning with a man and a woman touching one another, touching their bodies, and they are naked, and they may touch each other's sexual organs: penis, testicles, vulva, vagina. Then we have a picture of an erect penis, in fact, entering a vagina. And here we can see a picture of this. The idea that our primary age children will be looking at these pictures, I'm sorry to have to show them to you. If I don't want to show them to you, can you imagine how I feel about them being taught to our children, or how parents feel about them being taught to our children? Worst of all, the parents in this school in Norfolk did not even know that these were the materials that were being given to their children at school. And when they became aware, then they complained. Are you aware of what your children are being taught? It is really in black and white. It is a pandemic. It is everywhere. It's in every school. And the teachers are in fear. Teachers are in fear. Parents are in fear. Teachers can't resist the agenda. They fear for their jobs. Parents are also intimidated and put in fear. This is why we have to raise up a movement. We have to raise up a movement that is vocal and visible to speak on behalf of the protection of our children. Children, quite simply, should not be exposed to this material. Some MPs are waking up to this. Again, it's as if people didn't believe that this stuff was actually happening in schools, but it has been happening for a long time. And our schools are currently in the grip of it. So let's understand what's going on. Let's come together, let's act, and let's raise up our voices.